Okay, we're here with Jay Bradshaw from Syngenta Canada. Jay is the president of Syngenta Canada. Thanks for sitting down with us, Jay.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Jay, I'd like to talk a bit about the situation right now in Canada in terms of agriculture. There's a lot of, news on the side in terms of the economic crisis. Banks falling, and mainly in the U.S., of course. But there's a lot of bad news, and prices have come down. What really do you feel is the situation right now? How should farmers feel about agriculture in Canada right now?
Well, not everybody may agree with me, Sean, but I think, to be honest, relatively speaking, we should feel really, really good about agriculture in Canada in 2009. Because like you said, every publication, media, from the Financial Post and Journal, pick up anything or watch the news, it's all doom and gloom. But I always look at things relatively speaking. So yeah, we're in a tough situation in Canada, no question there, right? We're going to go into $40 billion in debt for our kids to pay off. I don't feel good about that. But relative to other parts of the world that we compete with in agriculture, they're worse off. So my point is everything is always relative, right? Mm-hmm. We've already talked a little bit about it, but Eastern Europe, major agricultural production area for all of us in agriculture to watch for the next 15 to 20 years, because they're very, very progressive, lots of arable land, but they're under such a magnitude of financial crisis. I don't say it's going to come to a standstill, but darn close in 2009. Go into Latin America, right, which is a major crop area for the world, almost exceeded the United States in soybean production last year. Well, they're under a financial crisis, and their currency, the real, is being devalued. My point is we can go into much more depth of what's going on in those parts of the world. Now come back to Canada. It's not that bad relative to what they're dealing with. We didn't decentralize our banking, so it's relatively stable. All our farmers can get operating loans. But yes, you want to have a very sharp pencil and be very, very careful. But I think, relatively speaking, the opportunities here in Canada, because we're a major exporter of commodities and agricultural commodities. Well, those markets aren't drying up. Mm-hmm. Population is still increasing. People want to improve their well-being. It's still there. I don't think Mr. Obama is going to curtail the influence of ethanol production from agricultural commodities. So really what I feel is still very good about, Sean, is relatively speaking, the fundamentals that gave us such an uplift in agriculture a couple of years ago, basically those fundamentals are still there today. Mm-hmm. For Canadian producers to take advantage of. They really, really are.
So do you, what is it about Canadian farmers, and is it the willingness to participate in innovation and those kinds of things that obviously a dollar being at a certain spot helps out too with exports.
Oh, it does, yeah.
But what is it about? Is there some special characteristic about Canadian farmers that you've traveled across the world? Is there something about Canadian farmers that makes them different than other areas, or is it just the way that we farm that makes us a little bit different?
I think it's a bit of both, Sean. But it's Canadian farmers, but I think it's Canadians generally. Like when our global chairman of the board visited Canada, he's originally from the UK. He was absolutely flabbergasted, a British expression, about the culture of the Syngenta Canadian organization, the people. They're resilient. We accept diversity way, way more. We're pretty level keel. Who is a Canadian? We're from all different parts of the world. We're much more diverse. So we're more accepting to new ideas, new concepts, and when we have challenges like we do in our economic situation in Canada, as Canadians, we don't just fluff it off, but we seem to be able to tolerate it, adjust, ask different questions, and rally around it. So, I'm proud to be a Canadian. But Canadian farmers are a pretty resilient bunch too. There's been some tough times in this country in agriculture. I don't have to go through those. And some farmers, especially in the livestock sector, are probably there now. There was in the grain business in the 70s. But they're extremely resilient people. But what I find generally, and I am generalizing, Sean, but the Canadian producer, I think they realize, relative to global agriculture, Canada is still pretty small. So what that forces us to do in Canadian agriculture is to look beyond Canada. And study what's going on in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And my point is, in this particular environment right now, when we do that as Canadian farmers, or those of us that are dedicated to Canadian agriculture, relatively speaking, we're in a pretty good spot. We really are. Because if we just look at our own country, our own province, our own trading area, wherever we are in Canada, I don't think that's a way to be successful. You just can't be, because we're in a global economy. And Canada's only 3 or 4% of it.
And I think that's something now that more and more farmers are getting used to is gathering information and having the discussion about, okay, what is happening in South America and how is that affecting, my farm and how I do business.
Exactly.
I think Canadians are very, in general, the Canadian farmer is very good at that and is interested in those kind of things.
Absolutely. And, like a lot of farmers, you can't generalize too much, but a lot of farmers, when they take a vacation, if they ever do, because not many do, right?
Yeah.
What do they normally do? They go to another part of the world, right, where they can learn about agriculture.
Yeah.
And why do they do that? I really admire them because they're doing that, because they're saying, okay, what I got exposed to in Chile or Latam or Europe, or some go to China, India, etc. What did I learn? Or they go to Hawaii, which is kind of a vacation destination for Western Canada, but there's a lot of seed production and trade production in Hawaii.
Yeah. They
always learn something, right? When you get back to your operation, wherever it be in Canada, you think, okay, what did I learn? And what can I do on my farming operation that's more conducive to taking advantage of an opportunity somewhere? And we know that, generally speaking, take agriculture right out of it, as Canadians, whether we were backpacking in the 60s like I was in Europe, when you got the Canadian flag on your backpack, the world welcomes that, don't they?
Yeah.
And to be honest, we're actually too submissive, I think, as Canadians. If we could brand the Canadian flag on every kernel of wheat and every kernel of canola that exits this country, I think we do much better. But we're not as bold, are we?
Yeah.
But we need to brand Canadian agriculture and export it.
KG, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean. I enjoy it.